Welcome to the On Your Mind podcast, where we are changing the mental health narrative, bringing hope and solutions. Here's your host, Timothy J. Hayes, psychologist.
Bill Stierle has spent over 33 years as a communication specialist, speaker, and mentor, presenting on how a person or organization's thinking, behavior, and beliefs impact their relationships, performance, and outcomes. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us again. I'm delighted to be able to dig in a little bit more to the second half of your book.
I really appreciate the invite, Timothy. Last time we were together, we were able to get a chance to communicate past, and have the opportunity to talk about how do we talk about emotions and needs in a better way. And I'm looking forward to kind of like this part two of our conversation.
Well, there's three different segments in the last part of the book that we didn't get a chance to talk about. And one of them is the nice dead person and the corollaries. The other one is the shame cycle. The other one is the Four Horsemen of the communication apocalypse. So I'm hoping you can shine a spotlight on these three different patterns for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate the invite. And those are three different chapters. And each one of those chapters really does looks to slow down and give the reader a perspective about how to use language to be more compassionate so you don't wind up in or even catch yourself in the position of being either a nice dead person where you submit to the needs and emotions of others, or a monster person where your strategy has been growing up, if I just become really upset, the world will bend to my experience. And that's getting your needs met at the expense of others. And then finally, to be the compassionate person or the feeling and need person, and to learn how to shift out of those two languages, how to shift out of being the nice dead person. How do you shift out of being the monster person and catch yourself so that you don't use that strategy as much? So, and being able to do that takes a little bit of language, not too much, words that we already know, and the words we already use. It's just using them in a way that reduces conflict or calms our body down. So even if I say, I feel tired and I need rest inside myself, I'm actually giving myself self-empathy, but just acknowledging what might be so. I stayed up last night. I worked on a chapter of another book. I feel tired. I need rest. Once I say that to myself, it's to go like, oh yeah, that was the thing I chose. I chose creativity ahead of rest. Now, as soon as I did that, you notice the smile came on my face,
Right.
and I feel a little bit better. Now, did that get my head on the pillow? No, rest can come in different ways. Rest can come with just acknowledging that you need rest. Your body goes like, okay, well, just start to relax a little bit while you're doing this interview. And you don't have to amp the interview up and, run at a level 10, with the interview to the way you would do a speaking to a large group. What would you do though is actually be congruent with what's happening inside your body.
Right. And you end the confusion or the question that might go on, geez, why am I so tired? And I'm not usually like this. And because we get so busy, we don't even remember, oh yeah, I chose this last night.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is that we don't we don't our language has moved away from being able to be compassionate and empathetic to ourselves, to be really good at problem solver, to be really good at explaining or justifying or giving advice. We have a lot of practice there.
Yep.
But you and I both know the thing that will piss both of us off as soon as we tell somebody an issue that we're having. They say the following sentence. Try not to jump out of your seat because it totally gets you. Here it comes. You know what you should do is, or why have you tried this yet? Oh my God. Don't problem solve me in the middle of an upset. Don't try to fix something when I'm just I'm trying to get in touch with my upset. You're cutting me off from moving through the experience of I just happen to be tired and I happen to need rest. And I'm just sharing what's happening in my state and my experience in the present moment.
And I might just be getting in touch with it for the first time clearly for myself. And I don't want to rush past that. I want to stay in that awareness.
I just want to stay in the awareness. I want to be here in that awareness. I want to stay with, yeah, yeah. I finally got in touch with why I've been dragging it for the last hour and a half. It's no, I was meeting the need for creativity. I was contributing. I was burning my brain on trying to get words on a page. And that's the choice that I made. And I threw the need for rest under the bus. I picked one need, creativity and expression, two needs ahead of, getting a fuller night rest, which I could have chose. And that immediately moves me out of being the nice dead person. Yeah, I just need to white knuckle this, or the monster person. I want to make everybody miserable because I happen to be miserable. And those kinds of transferences are language that goes back and forth. And in the book, I really take some time to go, okay, well, you said this sentence that just happens to be a nice dead person sentence. Oh, you said this other sentence. Oh, that just happened to be a monster person sentence. Why don't you say this compassionate sentence over here? Why don't
And
you
just
try
see how it
that
feels.
sentence?
Yeah.
See how that feels, and see if we can, get that to move forward a little bit, and see if that works better. So yeah, very, very important. So in the book, I have it as three different circles, and I call it the three states of waking up. And in the first, the where we're looking to get is to try to spend, I don't know, about 70% of our time, 60% of our time having access to empathy and compassion, being the compassionate person. You don't have to do that all the time, but it's just gently reminding yourself that there is a way to be compassionate and empathetic. Meanwhile, knowing that the rest of the world is spending that time in either the nice dead person or monster person moment while you're doing that, while you're trying to stay in a more grounded space. And then we don't have to judge people for being in that spot. At the same time, when they're in that spot, we've got to really up our game to be compassionate and empathetic, because they'll have very little bandwidth for us. They just want to tell the terrible story. And then they want us to carry the terrible emotions that they experience with the terrible story. It's like, I don't have to carry your emotions. I can be empathetic to your emotions. I don't have to carry them. But regrettably, Timothy, that's the hard part about this, Tim, is that our language regarding problem solving, explanation, justification, it gets trapped to try to get us to be more, through the problem solving process, to be more codependent and not really fully clear the emotions that we have. And this is why people are more exhausted at three in the afternoon, is because they've been thinking in a judgmental way, for the first 6 hours of their day. They're, they
Burned out.
burned out. The more you think judgments, criticisms, labels, diagnoses, it'll fry your brain. Your body just gets tired.
Not to mention trying to figure out what to say or do to change another person's emotions. It's exhausting.
Yes. Yes, that's right. That's right. And by doing that, that allows us to, get off that nice dead person, monster person train. Now, we know that we're end of the rope. We know that we're getting more in that monster person place. When in the next chapter, I talk about the four horsemen of a relationship apocalypse. That's when we start tilting. We're going like, oh my gosh, I am definitely being a monster person, because I am using more of the language of criticism, more of the language of defensiveness, more of the language of contempt, more of the language of withdraw. I am using language and strategies because I'm like up to my eyeballs in water and I'm drowning with all the emotion that I'm carrying on my body. So, well, there's a good news to it. And the good news part of it is that if we choose to see those 4 words and strategies as protective, we can then be compassionate. So if someone's using criticism, wow, they're protecting something over there. I know it looks like it's about me, but really it's actually not fully about me. It's more about their pain and or suffering being directed in my direction
As a defense for them, a
as
protection
a
for them.
as a protection for them. That's the pull. That's the thing to get a hold of. So if I'm doing a mediation for a company, or if I'm doing a divorce mediation or speaking to a group, and someone's upset about something and they bring a criticism or a defensiveness or a contempt or a withdrawal to their language, they ask me a question or they bring a challenge or something like that. The compassionate response is to look at the criticism and extend to that person a moment that might sound like, "Oh, Mr. Jones, I'm guessing you're feeling aggravated and I haven't heard you fully. Let me make sure if I've heard you fully. Did you just say this?" And then tell them back verbatim what you just heard him say and watch what happens inside their body. It's strange. Here's what happens. Yes. When you make the correct guess of the feeling and need, they then shift and then say, "Thank you so much for getting me. This is the pain I've been carrying." I was like, "Yeah, I just named it. And you were just bringing me criticism, and I just brought you compassion and empathy. You brought me defensiveness. I'm going to bring you compassion and empathy. Oh, you're withdrawing. You're not going to talk to me. Well, I am still
Going to
going to
bring
bring
you
you compassion and
compassion and
empathy.
empathy.
Still going to bring it to you." There was one time at a city council meeting, somebody came out of the, came out of the audience. There's about 150 people there. One guy comes out. He was really mad. And I was brought in as the mediator. And this group had been arguing for about a year and a half. I literally, the meetings would blow up. There's this group of a group of citizens. They would come in and they would take shots at the neighborhood council person, take shots at the members. And I was there to mediate. This guy comes down, points at me and says, "No one told you to be here. No one invited you to be here." He's pointing at me. "Because you're not here, this is not a valid meeting. I'm leaving." He turns, he starts to walk towards the door. "Sir, could you be feeling angry? And you really are not getting the consideration you would like with this group." His back was to me and I was bringing compassion. "So I'm guessing you're really feeling aggravated because you really are not getting the message about fairness that did not take place during this process." He keeps going. "Sir, could you be feeling angry and furious and you want some respect and some consideration about how hard it's been for you during this thing?" He snapped back around. He was right at the door. He's about ready to leave the building. Snapped back around. He says, "That's right. What would you like us all to hear right now so that we can at least get one of those things that you're requesting?" He goes, "I just want you to hear." And then he told like 4 sentences. I turned to the chairman. I said, "Could you just say that back to him?" Because I had coached him to be compassionate. Just say that back to him right now." And the guy goes, "Well, gosh, Mr. Jones, you really heard this, and we really haven't heard this part of your story very well, and you would like me to hear it one more time." "Yes," the guy said. And I looked at him. I go, "Is there anything else you'd like us to hear? Because we really would prefer you being in the room here, because your voice in this neighborhood council is really valuable." Doot, 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 doot. He walked down and sat down. Was it a trick? No, it was compassion and empathy.
Right.
The guy was in pain.
There's the
No
thing.
trick,
It seems like magic because it's different
because it's
than
different.
the traditional response to those 4 horsemen of the communication apocalypse. And again, to name them, we've got defensiveness, we've got criticism, we've got what what's the poisonous one you
Contempt is the poison. It's
contempt,
the
yeah.
contempt. It's like, oh, you don't love me anymore. Contempt.
And then
You
when
know,
that doesn't work, withdrawal. So these are
withdraw.
the four that we see. Once you have those four words and the template for looking at that, you can see it in just about every upset or argument you're going to have with somebody.
Yes. And one of the things that was nice in the book, and you might have seen this, is that I said, well, if someone's bringing you criticism, here are the 5 sentences that work best when someone's bringing you criticism. Here's the 5 sentences for defensiveness. I literally tried to care for, it's kind of a weird thing, but to actually say as an author, I cared about every sentence I wrote. I cared about word placement. I really, really did. I said, this is one way I can say it, but here's a better way to say it. And I literally kind of said, okay, if this one doesn't work, then this one is probably going to be the next one. If that one didn't work, probably this one is going to be the one. So I really wanted to give the reader both and the practitioner the tools and the ability to pull something off the page, put it in the opportunity to put it in their mouth. And then the next time it shows up, I don't know, tomorrow, because this conflict's everywhere, happens all the time. So tomorrow, use it tomorrow. And if it doesn't work, see if there's, another one of the 5s that'll take a run, add it in, wait for the magic to take place, which is the person says, yes, you finally get me. You get me from the heart space. You're not trying to talk me out of my idea. You're not talking me out of my pain. You're helping me to connect and resolve or restore what I experienced.
Well, and it's the idea of the solvent or the salve, the salve that you'd put on a wound. When you return compassion to someone after they've given you the defensiveness or the criticism or the contempt or the withdrawal, it is really a healing offering. And it doesn't work every time. You can't make the other person accept your compassion, but at least you're not throwing your gasoline on their emotional fire.
That's right. That's right. Which problem solving does, which rules or duties and obligations or punishments or bribery. I mean, all
Or
that
defensiveness
language,
or criticism, right?
criticism.
If I respond in kind, it's going to explode.
Exactly. So we can't, like, somebody brings criticism, you can't say, don't talk to me that way, because the violence is coming next, or speak more professionally. No, now you just judged me as not professional. I'll show you not professional. they'll take their language really out for a spin, so again, it's one of the one of the challenges that we have, because even though human beings have done a really wonderful job at building language in a certain way, we have built it in the way that has favored problem solving, productivity, and efficiency ahead of empathy and compassion for what's going on inside the person's body.
Well, and we also haven't, as we've talked about in our first conversation, we haven't been trained to live from observation. We've been trained to live by belief and dogma. And so one of those beliefs and rigid dogmas we have is, you made me angry, you hurt my feelings, you're offending me, you're scaring me, that's wonderful, that's terrible. And every time we hear that, it's programming the brain to believe that my emotional state's being caused by someone or something outside of me. And then it kind of tricks me into trying to be responsible for having caused somebody else's emotions. So, as we talked about earlier, that's exhausting if I'm going to try and figure out what to say or do to fix somebody else's emotions. So
That's
if we can
correct.
get this template that you're giving, and we have in a few other places, where we can start to think in terms of the actual observation. Whatever comes out of my mouth is always going to tell you more about what's going on inside of me than it's ever going to tell you about the world around me or the people around me.
Boy, I'm so glad you mentioned it that way. There's one guiding sentence that can help us orient our brain to do it. And it's the ability to adopt the quality of listening, that most people are saying the same sentence over and over again. And it's a really wonderful mindset to hold in to keep us in observation. And this mindset sentence is when a person is opening their mouth saying, I'm not going to take it anymore, I'm leaving. Here's what they're really saying. This one key sentence: please help me understand my pain. Exclamation point. They're asking, it's an invitation to be compassionate and empathetic. Bill, you're a jerk. Please help me understand my pain. It's the
My
next
pain. Yeah.
right. That they're the speaker. They're saying what the pain is. They're bringing the pain forward. See, pain is a given, suffering is optional. That's the way to really to get a hold of it. We as human beings struggle. We do, because pain is a part of the process to let us know that things aren't going well, whether we stub our toe or bang our finger or all kinds of ways that our body feels pain. Suffering is optional. I stubbed my toe because you left the vacuum cleaner out in the living room. Now I'm suffering.
Yeah. Or I'm such an idiot and I'm so clumsy, and whether I'm blaming myself and piling on me or I'm blaming you and piling on you, that's where the suffering comes in.
That's where the suffering is. The suffering is language based. I am literally layering my own suffering through my interpretation of responsibility. My toe still hurts, but now to really put a little bit of stuff on it, I'm going to assign blame or judgment or shame or criticism on someone else. Now suffering occurs, because then it starts ruminating in the brain. Then it starts going over and over again. I should have, I really need to do this. This thing is so important. No, those are all suffering. I want to get better language wise to celebrate the things that go well and to mourn the things that don't go well. So you and I can stay in a place of celebration. We feel delighted because our need for learning, our need for connection, our need for sharing information, contribution to others is being met. Now, all of a sudden, you saw my whole body light up. That's delighted, energized, inspired, grateful for the opportunity for your listeners to listen. So my body is moving up, but my body also has the opportunity to move down, which might sound like, oh, we only have so much time left. I feel disappointment. We didn't get to this other piece of information. I feel disappointment about, and then we can fill in the disappointment: contribution or care for people, or the need for freedom or choice that people can have by using better language, having better emotional sobriety, emotional safety in their conversations. Again, our language is designed so that all the words are there to have a orchestra of emotional expression. Orchestra. We have a range. We have a range of emotional experiences. But most of the people you check in, how you feeling? Good, sad, mad. They got like 6 to 12 words that they have access to. Take it out for a spin. Take annoyed, or take exasperated out. Try that out for a spin. Feel helpless once in a while when you realize the state of the world. Feel it and say it. I feel helpless. I would like more peace in the world.
Well, and I keep encouraging people to face the fear that they're going to risk something by being honest.
Right.
And let them know that in essence, there really isn't any danger in them being honest about what they're feeling internally. Someone might try to use it as a weapon against them, but it doesn't really have any
No
potency.
juice.
It doesn't have any potency once I've stated it myself.
Yeah. So, like, for example, somebody says, I feel fearful, or they're experiencing fear, and I guess the word fear. I say, hey, listen, let's find out where that fear is coming from. Is it coming from physical safety, or is it coming from emotional safety? Are you feeling fearful about acceptance? Are you feeling fearful about kindness? Are you feeling fearful about getting your need for acknowledgement met? Or are you fearful around your self worth? I love, hey, bring the fear on. But for God, let's go ahead and troubleshoot what need is causing that fear, so both of us can move through it and say, I get it. What your brain is saying, what your language is telling you, what your past life experiences have validated about the need for physical safety or emotional safety not being met by speaking up. Oh, yeah, I can see that fear sitting right there, because the eyes of judgment and criticism are coming our direction. And, you
And
know,
then once the need is identified, the individual and or the person you're working with can work together to meet that need, or at least acknowledge that we're working towards meeting it if we can't meet
yes,
it in the moment.
yes, we're working towards it. So like, with, one of the most fearful things that people have is public speaking. Well, why is public speaking at the top of the list? Well, it makes sense then that if you're up in front of people, you don't know how to get emotional safety when you come off the stage from either a praise or a criticism. You don't know how to deal with either one of those things. So you think praise, well, that should be easy. No, it's not. Try, oh, you were great. Really? What kind of great? When I give me something specific so I can receive it. Because otherwise, I'll get puffed up over here. And then the next person will give me a dark comment over here. So, again, we've got to, once we're in touch with our needs, and we can learn how to speak up and get more groundedness, have some more trust, have some more reassurance, and then things tend to go better. So
And so I want to recommend to people, tapping into your book, because when we talk about the four horsemen of the communication apocalypse, you've got a breakdown of the kinds of sentences that will work best when someone brings on their defensiveness toward you,
right.
or someone presents you with criticism, or someone presents you with their contempt, or someone says, I'm withdrawing from you. And each of those four, as you notice the pattern of language coming out of the person, each of those four has a different set of suggested statements or observations and questioning that you have found work better for each of the four.
Right. That's correct. And it protects you as you are facing those horsemen. It protects you from those voices, and it gives you a response that is kind, compassionate, empathetic, and protective all at the same time.
Yeah.
Empathy turns into both a shield and an ability to have connection at the same time as having protection,
Yeah.
which is
It it,
fantastic. It
it
makes a big
offers
difference.
healing, it offers connection. And
Yes.
and and so the next thing that I want to make sure we get into, because it's a bit involved, is this shame cycle you're talking about.
I really appreciate that we're talking about this, because the shame cycle and the experience of shame is something our society is struggling with greatly right now, because it seems like if somebody is getting their need to speak up and express themselves and talk about a point of view, and even if it's at the expense of others, it causes, some people to feel empowered, and it causes some people to feel like worried and scared and a little overwhelmed and a little helpless. So I'd like to talk about the four different points of the shame cycle. So what I'd like the listeners the readers to read, and the listeners that are on this listening to us to visualize, is that imagine that there's a wheel, and at the top of the wheel is the word control. And at the bottom of the wheel is the word release. So controls at the top, releases at the bottom. So far, so good.
Yep.
On the right-hand side is the word rebel. On the left-hand side of the wheel is the word submit. This is such an unsettling conversation, but it is so illuminating at the same time. Many of our conflicts are stuck between these points of view. Now, as soon as I say them out loud, and you and I start working on these and poking at them with the stick, it's one thing to see it, but it's another thing to diffuse it. So first we're going to see it, and then we're going to take a few moments to diffuse it. Okay. All right. As a person that has worked in drug and alcohol rehab for a number of years, as a person that does high conflict mediation, my tuning of my ears are to listen to these four things for these four things coming. So, for example, we'll just pick somebody that struggles with alcohol, let's say. The control sentence that they would say when they first get into the rehab might be the sentence, "I'll never drink again." Now, they've said it, I don't know, 50 times during their rehab process.
Yeah.
It seems like the word never has got some problems to it. And drink again also struggles with some truth. Now, the person that's in relationship with this person listens to the sentence, "I'll never drink again," and immediately feels a little bit helpless. They have to almost release a little bit here. They have to like back down and go like they feel helpless. They want to trust what the person is saying because they love and care about them. But at the same time, they want to be supportive. But as soon as the word never shows up, inside their body, they're sitting in doubt and skepticism in a release state, waiting for, even if it's a year or 2 or 3 later, they're waiting for the person to start drinking again because they're in a released mindset. So they might say, "Whatever, you told me this before. Okay, we'll see this time. I'm not sure. But okay, you'll never drink again." Sure. Notice they're releasing. They're going to go, "Well, we'll see." But who's the prisoner and who's in jail? They both are. One's the person that's in the jail watching the criminals is still in jail. They're still in a different kind of jail. They're supervising the people that are in there. And the shame cycle is a little bit like a prison cell of language. So the person that says the sentence, "I'll never drink again," 3 months later, 5 months later, they're at a party with their friends and they think, "Just this once." That's a moment of rebellion. Rebellion is a get out of jail free card. Who put themselves in jail? They did. They said the word "never drink again." Just this once says, "I can handle this." By the end of the evening, they had somewhere between 3 to 7 drinks, and they go into the release place and say, "How could I have? What's wrong with me? I'm an alcoholic. I shouldn't have done this." That's the sentence. "I shouldn't have done this." Then all of a sudden they wake up the next day. Now they have to submit and own or take an accountability piece and say, "Well, I'm sorry. I'm an alcoholic. What's wrong with me?
It's just my life."
Just my life." And then here's the next sentence: "I'll never do that again." Now they're back up at the top of the wheel again. I promise. They might even put a little icing on the cake. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I've cycled through my language. Month later, week later, 6 months later, 3 years later, They'll say to themselves, no one will tell me what to do. This is my own life. Now they're rebelling in a new way. They have one drink, and by the end of the evening, it's 3 to 5 drinks or 3 to 7 drinks. It almost doesn't matter. Or they start drinking again, or they bring some alcohol home and they start to drink in isolation because no one will see it. I'd rather be a shame person at home than a blame person at a bar going home drinking. Shame person. See, all of a sudden, just see the difference between the depression and the the internal noise versus the external noise. It's built into the shame cycle. Okay.
Help us
So
break out of this.
help us break out of this. I'm really glad you gave us the off ramp right there. The first step in breaking the shame cycle, or what I would affectionately call getting off the gerbil wheel, the first thing to get off the gerbil wheel is something that I talk about in chapter 1, but here it is at, at the end of the book is, okay, we have to apply our skills of observation. Oh my gosh, I see that other person is on the shame cycle and they're trying to get me to be the second mouse on the shame cycle so they can stay on the shame cycle too. And they have somebody else on it. So here it comes. Misery loves company. It's like, I'm just going to invite somebody else to be there, and I will burn through several friends to get them on the shame cycle with me so they know how it feels and what I'm going through. Shame is trying to create a shared experience.
Right.
I'm trying to get somebody else to experience the shame and the blame and the guilt and the language, and I'm going to take it out on my loved ones. Yikes. So to get off of it, it's step 1, observe. Step 2, provide empathy and compassionate sentences to the person on each step of the shame cycle, on all the 4 steps, on the control step, on the rebellion step, on the release step, on the submission step. I want to bring compassion and empathy. So I'll hold my hands up for the ones that are not seeing this visually. I have one hand as me speaking in a compassionate way, and then the other person saying the shame sentence. I'm sorry. Watch what I do next. Here it comes. I hear you feel disappointment because you've had the same experience again. Is that correct? Yes. I did not take their apology. And I most certainly didn't say, you'll do better next time. No way. No, that's got it. No, I'm here for you. No, that's just you getting on the damn gerbil wheel thinking you're going to slow down their gerbil wheel.
Right.
There's no way to slow down their gerbil wheel. They're just trying to get other people on it. So observation and then compassion and empathy for each of the steps. In the book, I write down sentences for what that might look like. What does it look like when somebody says, I'll never drink again? I promise. I say, could you be feeling optimistic and you really want some healing and you'd really like to resolve some of the pain and suffering you're going through right now? Is that what you'd like to do? Yes. Drinking's not the problem. How they're getting their needs met is the problem. How they're managing their emotions is the problem. How they're trying to use alcohol or whatever substance to manage emotions instead of being compassionate to your own emotions or compassionate to your own thoughts. It's big stuff. This is really, I'm so glad that you brought this in because this is a really good thing to wrestle for sure.
Well, and I like the summary statement you make here near the end of that chapter where you say that when a person you just say when they're in the practice of emotional sobriety, and I would say when a person has continued to be a student of this practice of emotional sobriety,
Yes.
that person will not be able to hear blame or shame. They will just hear the complaint about what need was not met. And then with compassion, they can feed that back to the person. And again, when you
Oof,
put the spotlight on the problem that they're laying out for you, rather
yeah,
than joining them on that hamster wheel,
that's right.
it's magical. It's powerful.
It, oh, it really is. And the way you summarize that is just like totally gave me chills because that's the spot on. You'll see somebody use a blame or a shame strategy and you'll just stare it down with compassion and go like, yeah, there's a lot of pain going on over there. Could you be feeling angry because you would like fairness? And for some reason you have a thought that wasn't met. Yes, the person says. Well, what would a fairness look like? Um, um, now they're working on their own problem instead of trying to drag you on the wheel, going like, oh, they're just trying to drag me on their wheel about fairness, or they're just trying to, hijack me a little bit. So yeah, so important.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it is one of the primary things that I work with people on is to just keep practicing this observation that whatever comes out of my mouth is going to tell you about what's going on inside of me. And if I'm sitting here, like right now in this moment, I'm just such a sweet spot in my career, and I've got, you know, prominent author on the video with me, and we're talking about wonderful stuff. And it's not possible for insult or anger or criticism to come out of my mouth because there's none of it in me right now. All that's in
Right.
me is this wonderful feeling of gratitude and appreciation for what's going on. So what we can observe is anytime there's anger or insult or upset coming out of a person, it means there's a pain, a fear, or a sadness in them that they don't know how to express in any other way. And if
Right.
it's anger coming out of them, they're just using it to distract from or numb out from the pain, fear, or sadness inside of them.
Right.
And if you
Right.
can use a
Right.
practice and a template like the emotional sobriety solution to start to shine a light on that for them, you've
Right.
got a real powerful practice for yourself for interacting with people, as you say, from that compassionate, connected, healing place.
Yeah. It is such a joy to listen to you talk about it this way because that was a big part of my experience when I first shifted over to a compassionate need-based narrative, and with my clients shifting over to a compassionate and needs-based narrative, going like, what need is causing this upset? It makes parenting easy. It makes relationships much, much easier to guess or try to pursue what the need is causing the upset. It makes it easier. You don't have to work as hard. So your kid's upset. Great. What need is it? And stop trying to fix their emotion because that's not the problem. Their emotions are fine. Their needs, that needs some work.
Well, and I like the idea of how well it's laid out in a way that is, to my eye and ear, completely compatible with a number of different therapy techniques or models, like the internal family systems model,
Oh, good.
where you know Richard Schwartz has
Uh-huh.
written about internal family systems, and he actually has a book titled "No Bad Parts." There are no
No
bad
bad
parts.
parts.
Well, so the core of that is the understanding that every part of me that's developed in response to a need that I was going through at that time. And here you have a book with the emotional sobriety solution that has me make the observations about the emotion that's going on that's connected with a need that's not getting met, and how to make a request for pulling that into awareness and working towards resolution. It's just a wonderful overlap.
Delighted to hear that it's landed that way because I wanted it to be practical. I wanted there to be examples. I wanted the readers to have a chance to practice some sentences before I gave them the answer, like challenge a little bit, say, try this sentence out. If this person says this sentence, what might be a feeling and what might be a need that is driving this sentence? And just gently do that and get your brain used to focusing on the world and your interactions in that way and kind of watch what happens, so it goes better. So.
Yeah, it really does give me a nice template for laying on top of several different things where people say, well, here's your part, talk to your part, have a visualization with this part. If you can add the emotional sobriety solution and that very clear template about identifying the observation, the emotion, the
Yes.
need, and the request for the need being met, fits beautifully. And
Yeah.
and
Well,
I've already seen it make a difference in people's lives in my sessions. So
well,
thank you for
wonderful
that
to hear.
work.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it and look forward to, more interviews like this at any time you'd like. I'm working on a couple other books right now that are, the next levels of this so that we can take some of those out for a spin and let's just keep walking the journey and kind of keep sharing the ability to get to the people that listen and hear these things so that they can experience the next level of emotional safety, emotional sobriety, some resilience so they can deal with really junky things that people say or do
And
and
stay
heal.
connected, right? And stay
Yeah.
connected and have better relationships. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That's
please
wonderful.
keep me posted. Give us the preferred website for people to reach you.
Well, the preferred website is my name, Bill Stierle, spelled Stierle.com. If you go onto Amazon, it's The Emotional Sobriety Solution. And there are two books on there. There's a hardback that is color coded, that actually color codes the feelings, the needs, and the requests in the book. I color coded the book so the reader would go, "Oh my gosh, he's like actually, pointing the words out here to put them in specific places."
Yeah, it's quite helpful.
And then the paperback there obviously is coming along. I'll do a recording of this probably in the next 3 months, so the audio will be available sometime in the next 3 months. But that's where I am right now, in the process of things. So yeah, looking forward to hear the feedback and we'll keep walking the path.
All right.
So
Well, I greatly appreciate your taking the time to be with us, and I look forward to the next book.
more to come. All right, thanks a million.
Blessings. Bill Stierle has spent over 33 years as a communication specialist, speaker, and mentor, presenting on how a person or organization's thinking, behavior, and beliefs impact their relationships, performance, and outcomes. As an expert in human behavior, Bill provides life-changing tools and techniques to his clients that allow them to grow their businesses and transform their personal relationships. Throughout his career, Bill has supported Fortune 500 companies, top business schools, A-list celebrities, governmental institutions, and individual business people to refine their effectiveness, streamline their systems, and energize sales teams to dramatically increase their bottom-line profits. Bill provides his clients with simple and implementable takeaways that build natural rapport with the speaker and the listener. His wisdom and insights can also be found in his newly released book, The Emotional Sobriety Solution.
You've been listening to the On Your Mind podcast, offered by Journey's Dream, where we support people through mental health challenges to a place of true and lasting well-being. If you love our show, we invite you to visit onyourmindpodcast.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our helpful resources. Thank you for listening.